the mainstream of libertarian thought adheres to the concept of natural rights. It's part of a long tradition of Western thought. Really, it goes back to Aristotle, which gets embodied in the sort of Catholic Thomistic theology, and which emerges in liberal thought, in the thought of John Locke, in the thought of benevolence, and so on. And by natural rights, what libertarians mean are essentially that human beings are a particular sort of entity, a particular sort of creature, and that the nature of human beings is the same universally. It's the same for all sexes, for all races of humanity, and it's true for humanity throughout all history. In other words, the essence of humanity does not change. And that essence of humanity is one which basically human beings require particular conditions in which to flourish. And those conditions are conditions of freedom, essentially. Therefore, for a human being to be a human being, to flourish as a human being, to fulfill their faculties, their potential as a human being, means that certain conditions must prevail in social life. And it's essentially those conditions which we label, in effect, human rights. We argue that human beings need to be free in order to flourish, to fulfill themselves as human beings, that freedom pertains to all human beings, of all races, of all sexes. And that's what we call natural rights. That in effect, a human being, it's right for a human being to be free, because that's the only way in which a human being can flourish and fulfill themselves. It's right for all human beings. In other words, you can't just have one human being free and others enslaved. Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense of applying that analysis to one human being. It's got to apply to all human beings, simply by the nature of them being human. You'd have to deny that other human beings weren't human to deny them the same rights. So we argue that all human beings, regardless of sex or race, have these rights. They're rights which stem from our requirements to flourish as a certain sort of entity. They're therefore natural. They stem from our nature. And they apply equally to all human beings. Therefore, all human beings should be equally free. And by that we mean they should be free to produce goods and services, to trade goods and services. Their physical integrity should be free. They should not be aggressed against by other individuals or the state. And this is how we derive, in effect, our case for individual freedom, our case for individual rights. We argue that they stem from human nature. They are natural rights. They're not something arbitrary. They're not something we just put out of our heads because we think it's nice in some way. They stem from our nature as human beings. And they're justifiable. They're part of the natural order of things. Hence they're natural.